good morning. Eswatini, welcome to Kusile Breakfast Show. Thank you so much for joining us today. It is exactly 6 o'clock on the dot. Welcome and good morning. Ungakhona ke nokusibukela ka YouTube uma ngabe uvula Eswatini TV. Lenvusela ko ngulungelele makakula. It is the 5th of May 2023. So good morning. How do you do?
Very good morning, Lungelele. Ngiphelile.
It's a Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, funa ngabe sine energies ngena ku weekend.
You know what, Lungelele? People that know me know ukuthi ngithanda basketball. Basketball game ayo because adlala American time. Aqala ngabo 1 a.m. ngo 2 a.m. Ngivukile ke namhla ngabukela Golden State Warriors idlala ne-Los Angeles Lakers nga-3. Qale nga-3 le game leyo. But ngiyite 4. Naloko sikithini yami.
Ngibukela.
Yeah, I've been up since 3 a.m. Sakhalif.
Alright, good morning. Sisemathini bakahle lomhla ekseni. Siyabonga ukuthi nikhethe kuvuka nathi sicala yona nje imphela somvo kuneni sabe sithi ikhulumisa indaba lapha lomhla ehlelweni. Kanti ke namhlanje sitabe sikhulumisana na PRO bomnyango wokucondzisa timilo His Majesty's Correctional Services Gugulethu Dlamini ukwavela ke lapha etindzabeni akhuluma ngeluhlelo lokuchutshwa ngolomnyango lokufundzisa labo labagcinwe khona ejele ngemisebenzi yetandla. This is part of the offenders rehabilitation program. Baniketwa ke lithuba lokuthi bakhone nabo ukuthi bamukeleke kahle emangweni nasebaphumile ejele bafundiswa ke ngemakhono noma ngemisebenzi yetandla lehlukahlukene. Lesabakwenza ke manje bangulomnyango ukuthi sabakhone ku introduce uhlelo lolusha lapho sekta khona kuvulela lo hlelo kuwonke umuntu lofisa nje ukufundzela imisebenzi yetandla nalongakaboshwa kodwa funza ke imisebenzi efaya ekhathi kona kuthunga kona furniture njengoba sibabona nje khona bona labo labagcina khona kulomnyango baba nemasaluni lapho khona ebenda khona bamfu ema hairstyles etehloko tabo bayakhona kwenta ama furniture nalokunye nje siyababona nje sifiso bahle bakhangisa nje nakubo trade fair imisebenzi yabo labayendako so nyalo la sabakwendile lomnyango ukuthi bantujuze ukuthi nanoma ngibane nje lofisa kuyofundzela imisebenzi yetandla so umukelekile ukuthi ahambe ayobhalisa mahala so sabe sikhulumisana naye Gugulethu ukuthi ngabe vele mhlambe yindaba ayibonile dikhalatini labatibonile ukuze bamukele nje wonke umuntu to be part of this program. So sitabe sikhulumisana naye today at 6:30.
It's interesting Lungelele. I think livela kangwane nje ngathini imisebenzi noma inhlelo labatendako kusita abantu labenda imisebenzi yetandla. It's quite commendable. Ngiyakhumbula nje ukuthi nababemnisi from IPA waveta ukuthi bataya eTaiwan with a few selected individuals within the handicraft sector bahambe bayo display some of their their works ku trade fair lena eTaiwan bebayile ke sebabuyile and we will get a chance to talk to them evikini lelitako naye babemnisi nje kusitshela ukuthi bahambe kanjani ngoba wasitshela ukuthi phela livela kangwane nyalo kuma sectors la ngathi akhanga kakhulu bahlanyela imali noma ke phinza khanga nje nema tourists lapha eveni ngiyo isector yema handicrafts and it shouldn't surprise us Lungelele ngoba sinoya lapha kubo Mandenga uhlala wabona ema tourists nala ezulwini it's not surprising, so it's good to see their support leyo. But anyway, later on the show at 7:30 Fabrice Msonera joins us kusi khulumisa tindzaba temidlalo. A lot has happened especially during this week. Scandal Lionel Messi, we want to talk about that. We also want to talk about the English Premier League. We've seen rather interesting games Gulel Vigi. You talk about the likes of Arsenal versus Chelsea. That's an interesting game. Arsenal win Liverpool versus Fulham. That was a great game. Manchester City versus West Ham and Manchester United's loss yesterday to Brighton. I want to talk to Fabrice about those games. We will also highlight league as South Africa as well as sports lenteka lakhaya. But also namuhla ngiyafuna lo ukuthi nafika Fabrice ikhulumisa indzaba swimming. We are doing very well ka swimming. We've gotten medals. I think we got 2 gold medals elangeni la itolo Amazon 4 kana games aqhubeka eAngola. That kid waka Fraser is raising the country's flag at Tulu ba nalolo munye waka Fraser. So Fabrice will join us later on the show kukhulumisa tona tindzaba tetemidlalo.
All right, it's 4 minutes after 6. Asibahla temagesi sibene tindzaba tefuthi Eswatini.
why should we pay our TV license?
The content on our local television is actually more up to date. The industry is enhanced.
It is a criminal offense not to pay your TV license and attracts a fine of 500 emalangeni or 6 months imprisonment.
And the industry is definitely blooming, ladies and gentlemen. So that's what we have for you. But we'll be right back just after the break, and we'll give you more of Miss V.
Pay my TV license. That's why I can enjoy the benefits of an enhanced industry and keep track with recent transformation.
Mommy, who paid for a TV license and what are they paying for?
The owners of TV set and the gadget with a tuner like DVD set have to pay.
Pay your TV license at NetBank with the details provided on screen. Or use your cell phone via the mobile money pay. You could also visit your nearest post office and pay there. Pay your TV license via Eswatini mobile imali. Any TV device retailer can purchase a license to trade. Pay your TV license and enhance the industry.
Imizuzu lesikhombisa ibumbene insimbi yesithupha sibukele indzabata lapha ekhaya. Silo inkosi Mswati wesithathu sisuke kuleli salibhekisa eveni le-United Kingdom. Ingonyama imenywe emkhosini wekubekwa kwenkosi yamangisi Charles wesithathu esihlalweni sebukhosi kunembiko.
Sesikhumulweni setindiza eKing Mswati III International Airport. Lapho khona eMaswati yaphume ngetinkani kutawufisela silo semhlaba ingonyama eMaswati luhambo loluhle. Kulandzela ukuthi sisuke kuleli sisingathwe inkosikati makelambikiza salibhekisa emangisini. Inkosi yamangisi Charles wesithathu itawubekwa esihlalweni sebukhosi ngemgcibelo esontweni lebukhosi bemangisi iWestminster Abbey. Ingonyama eMaswati ijatshulelwe lesive ngesikhathi ifika kulesikhumulo setindiza. Silo semhlaba sivaleliswe bomake emakhosikati, bantu benkosi, Vunankulu Cleopas Dlamini lebekahola indvuna tembuso, emabandla nasoke sive lebesiphume ngetinkani kutawusho ngavilinye kutsi indlela nhliwe nawaphakathi. Kucibitela kwanongwe kuhamba kwesilo ngemgubho. Ingonyama eMaswati imenywe inkosi yemangisi ukuthi ihlanganyele nalamanye emakhosi emhlaba, tindlovukati, bantu benkosi bebukhosi bamhlaba wonke nebaholi bemave emhlaba kulomkhosi wekubekwa kwayo esihlalweni sebukhosi lotawubuyiswa edolobheni iLondon. Kumenywa kwesilo semhlaba ekubekweni kwayo inkosi Charles wesithathu esihlalweni sebukhosi. Uskipha ngalokucacile isithombe sebudlelwane lobuhle lobukhona emkhathisini webukhosi bemangisi nebukhosi belive leSwatini. Bekakwethu indzabeni Sandile Makhanya esikhumulweni setindiza eKing Mswati III International Airport.
Kanti-ke silo inkosi Mswati wesithathu sifikile eLondon lapho-ke sibhekeke ukuthi singenele khona umkhosi wekubekwa kwenkosi yamangisi inkosi Charles wesithathu. Lo mkhosi ubhekeke ukuthi wendeke kule mpelasonto lesitakiyo. Kanti-ke imbube emhlaba isingethwe inkosikati makelambikiza kulolu hambo.
Ingonyama silo inkosi Mswati wesithathu sifike ecathatha eLondon tawungenela umkhosi wekubekwa kwenkosi yamangisi inkosi Charles wesithathu. Imbube isingethwe inkosikati makelambikiza kulolu hambo. Ekufikeni kwayo kuleli ngonyama yemaswati yemukelwe ulobekamelele bukhosi bemangisi kanye naloyo lobekamelele uhulumende wakuleli naluncuseleli vele Eswatini kuleli. Her Excellency Thandazile Mbuyisa naye abekhona kwemukela silo semhlaba.
Majesty and Frank Arnold, a very warm welcome to the Savoy. We are honored to have you here at the Savoy. And our team is here
Imvubu yemhlaba itawungenela lomkhosi kwatise ukuthi livele Eswatini nelengilandi linebuhlobo lesebuneminyaka leminingi kakhulu kanti futhi bungulobusimeme impela. Lapha singethe silo semhlaba kulolu hambo bafaya ekhathi umfanenkosi Guduza, umfanenkosi Thanzile, indvuna Mangome Nzimanze nendvuna itangephandle nekubambisana lamanye emave. Lo mkhosi utawube ubanjelwe esontweni lapho kuhlale kubanjelwa khona imicimbi leminingi yebukhosi balapha. Lokungilapho khona inkosi yemangisi itawubekwa khona ngokomthetho kulesihlalo. Lo mcimbi wendeka emva kwetinyanga letisiphohlongo etfulwa esiveni eminyakeni lophelile mhla tisiphohlongo enyangeni yeNyoni. Injabulo ke nemphokophelelo yomkhosi seyivele isetulu kakhulu kuleli dolobha. Sive semangisi netive letinye lokufaya ekhathi tintatheli takhona lapha kuleli vene temhlaba sebavele bakanikise lapho kutabe kwentiwa khona lo mkhosi. Etindzabeni kubika Pholile Maziya eLondon.
Liphini ilandvunankulu Themba Masuku livakashele imiti lemine leholwa bantfwana letfolela usito lwekulima kuhulumende lokufaka ekhatsi umbila kanye nemabhontjisi kuyohlola kutsi luhamba kanjani ikakhulu lokusekutawuvunwa. Labantfwana labatfolelo lusito babulala emabhodlela kuhulumende batsolola cala lolu hlelo timphilo tabo tishintshe kakhulu njengoba basasibo bozimo khamisa.
Seyiyafika eminyakeni lemithathu solo hlelo lahulumende lokunika emakhaya laholwa bantfwana lisito lwetinto tekulima kungumanje ingu-570 imithi leholwa bantfwana letfula lolu sito ngekuchutshwa libandla lekuphunga tehlakala i-National Disaster Management Agency. Liphinda ndvunankulu Themba Masuku ilivakashela imithi lasenkundleni yasemotshane kanye nasesiphocosini.
Bonke lala basitayo siyababonga bakhona labaphikisako abede nalala kusho ukuthi utawentani yena. Aphikise nje ukuthi bantu ahanjelwa kahle tinto so tawulima aphikiseke awaphikiseke akubekwe mina kwentiwe ukuthi asikho lapha sita emaswati athuthuke. Le budget sifuna ikhule ngoba siyabona ukuthi kuyasebenteka la. Luhlangothi lebe singakalunaki sesithi siyangena kulo sikhanzana embala luyasebenta. Lapha besibambisene neScotian Foundation. Kusho ukuthi inhlangano patron wayo kuyingwenyama.
Labantwana labatfola lolu sito lokulima babonga bayagangatha.
Sengiva ngithuleke umthwalo konke lokubheka umadima la empilweni yami. Sengiva ngazuthi konke sekulula. Akusiyo le kahle iyanetha mathayila la ngawafaka mathayila lengawacela kamakhelwane ayavuda. Malina nje ngayitolo belina njena kumandi le khathe endlini kumandi ushonani ngubo ngidibeke ngephandle.
Kulesimo lebesikhona la khaya sesishintshile kakhulu ngobe asisaphumeli ngaphandle siyokhalela abamfu ukuthi silambile. Singena la nsimini nasihlakulile basipha inhlanyelo, basiphe manyolo, basiphe emakhabeni. Kwefu ukuthi sifake amandla sitimisele kuze kutophuma lesivuno.
Liphinda ndvunankulu lisahambela lemithi ihlula tivans letilinyiwe belikutsata labantwana ukuthi bacale emabhizinisi. Masuku uthembisa kuthengela gcinile Masuku wasekupheleni emabhokisi lamabili ekufuya tinyosi. Wachinge futhi wathembisa ukuthi uhulumende utamakhela indlu lekahle njengalokulala kiyo inetha. Esigangeni uphinze futhi wathembisa kusita abantwana babona uncedo okhumalo ukuthi uhulumende utiyabasita kucala ibhizinisi yabo ekufuya tinkukhu temacanza kanye naboramdudu. Lihhovisi lakhe lithembise nekubhadalela munye umntwana lebekasola ngakatfola imiphumela yakhe yaka-Form 5 njengalokhu beyakatsi akweleta imali yoluhlolo. Etindzabeni kubika Fortune Dlangamandla. Nginamuzi Mkonta sisesigangeni.
Ngakulokunye liphini ilandvunankulu Themba Masuku lisavakashela lemiti leholwa bantfwana likhalimele sento lesentiwa bantfwana labashiwa batali emhlabeni lababese batsengisa umhlaba wakubo. Masuku utsi kude sizatfu noma ke kuhlupheka lokungabangela ukuthi bagcine batsenga umhlaba wakubo.
Aba wesitukulwane nesitukulwane usashiywe lakini nyalo newugadzele lesitukulwane lesitawulandzela salelikhaya awuthengiswa lo mhlaba lo kutawuphilwa ngawo lo mhlaba lo. Indlunkulu igadze kakhulu la kukhona lapha abantwana basathi nothi inkomo yini kuhlanyelwe nje tindlu yonke lendzawo angisho ukuthi kubi kepha nje khona kunganakeleli ukuthi kuhleliswe kahle. So umhlaba in the next 10 years timbi kulamanye amave tisuswa ngumhlaba nemanti nakude emanti ngumsindo hambe uyoshona kaIsrael dawubona lele ngikhuluma ngakho uyoshona kulamanye emave bo Egypt nabo Sudan yonke lenyakanyaka lenteka lapha kubangwa nje emanti. So kufuneka afikeleke lamanti. Umhlaba ke bantu abami noma ngabe nihlupheke kanjani anibhudzeli ekwenteni. Nabe ninempintshi lenganani niyahamba nikhulume endlunkulu.
Indvuna yetisebenti iphila Buthelezi ithi itawube ivakashela tinkampani ngenhloso yekuva inchubo yetisebenti nebacashi kanye ke netinkinga lababhekana nato basasebenta. Indvuna beyikhulumana ivakashele inkampani ye-Pitbulls Security Company kuMatsapa.
Indvuna yetisebenti iphila Buthelezi isukele umkhankaso wekuvakashela tinkampani kute ive tinkinga bacashi netisebenti labadibana nato basasebenta. Ikhuluma enkampanini ye-Pitbull Security Company kuMatsapa indvuna ithi litiko layo lifuna kulungisa lisukumele etulu lapho kunetinkinga khona.
Sisatibukela nato tisebenti tikhalweni tato kubuka inhlalakahle yato nemcashi naye siyambukela ngoba nemcashi naye unetinhloso nakacala umsebenzi ukuthi kumele ngi-achieve nabo kunema-standards lawabhekile kunema-targets lasebenta ngawo lekufuna netisebenti timbambise kuloko nakwekuthi kuba netivumelwano phela nakucashwana ukuthi bani ubheke ini ubani nesayine phasi kubhekekile-ke ukuthi umcashi akumithe konke lekuvulele nengako nesebenti kanjalo sikwende konke lokubhekekile kiso sifake wona emandla sisahamba kuhle uva letinye tindzawo tikhale ngema-delays ekutekeni ama-cases nalokuya so kutowuthola nje lowo moya nebakadlela ndvongeni-ke siyayisambe nabo mane namhla ungathi basele nekukhulumisana-ke kuloku bhadalelelana tisebenti idlela ndvongeni ngoba letinye tihle tikhala awu siyabanjelwa mana ifike umcashi ngesikhathi kumbe tinkampani lenye ngasho ukuthi awu mina ngiyayibhadala mana i-reflect ngesikhathi kumbe noma awu ngiyayingisi ngiyobhadala ngibhekana nanatingqinamba nathi.
Umcondzisi wenkampani ye-Pitbull Security uthi kunalichungechunge lwetinkinga labadibana nato basasebenta wabonga-ke ukuthi indvuna ifike ecathatha kule nkampani.
If the industry is not regulated, we challenge for your labor inspectors because there are certain standards they want them to be observed, but where do they base those standards if the industry is not regulated? Because now bigger standard uthumithana standard inasiya lapha nala.
Uma sihlanganisa lo mbiko-ke indvuna beyisachubekela nakuletinye-ke tinkampani khona-ke kuMatsapa nelibandla leliholako etindzabeni ngengiyani Msibi kuMatsapa.
Indvuna yetemabhizinisi nekutsengiselana manqoba khumalo ithi bosomabhizinisi labatimele bangumgogodla wekuphumelela kwelihlaka lwezivumelwano sekutsengiselana kwemave elivekati le-Afrika kute-ke live lizuze ngalokuphelele. Indvuna beyikhuluma ngesikhatsi lelitiko lihlangene nabo somabhizinisi kuhlatiya lihlaka lokusebenta kwalezivumelwano.
Litiko letemabhizinisi nekutsengiselana lihlangane nabo somabhizinisi labatimele lapha eveni kuhlatiya tingoni teluhlaka lokusebenta lapha eveni lesivumelwano sekutsengiselana lokude tincabekelwano semave elivekati le-Afrika i-African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Indvuna yetemabhizinisi nekutsengiselana manqoba khumalo ivule lo mhlangano ngalokusemthethweni.
It is imperative that the Eswatini business community leads from the front. Preparations may include improving your productive capacities, diversifying and also adding value to raw materials that are found in the country.
Lobukela ihhovisi lakamhlaba kuleli George Wachira uthi kuphumelela kwalezivumelwano kuhambisana nemigomo yakamhlaba yentuthuko.
That in order for the continent of Africa to progress forward, we needed to do something about working with each other, trading with each other, working for development, rather than being captives of and participated in a subordinate role in the international economy.
Umphathi wenhlangano yabosomabhizinisi kuleli Inathi Dlamini uqinisekise ukuthi ibophelela kwabosomabhizinisi.
Lokhu i-FTA la Africa ema-consumers ahamba ngale private sector ngithi restobers trade lapha e-Africa sakhe lo mcebo lothengwa ngelelive so ngingososibuka le draft ukuthi bakufakile nama-concerns ethu siphuma njani ema-border gates ase-Africa sisebenza njani ukuze ku-expanda konke lama-market ethu kusuka la kangwane.
Lesivumelwano sibuke kuhlanganisa umkhicido welivekati le-Afrika ube ngu-3.3 trillion wemadola asemelika. Etinzabende Eswatini TV kubika Samkeliswe Khoza nginasikhumbuzo Dlamini ezulwini.
Kanzi-ke indvuna yemabhizinisi Manqoba Khumalo ithi iyethemba ukuthi imithetho lemithathu lesakhankanywa itawuphasiswa ibeke ngemithetho njengoba itawusita emaswati etinhlangothini letehlukene kufaka ekhatsi ukuthi abe nemabhizinisi. Indvuna beyikhuluma ehotela le-The George kaManzini ngesikhathi timphunga tikhulumisa imithetho lesakhankanywa lengephasi kwelitiko letemabhizinisi.
Timphunga titsingitse kabanti tancola imithetho lesakhankanywa lemithathu lengaphansi kwelitiko letemabhizinisi. Le mithetho-ke lekhuluma nge-quality infrastructure, citizens economic empowerment ne-liquor licensing bill seyindlulile-ke endlini yabayesikhulu isendlini yetimphunga. Indvuna yetemabhizinisi Manqoba Khumalo ikhuluma kulo mhlangano ithi iyethemba ukuthi itawuphasa le mithetho yephalamende isengakaguci.
Sitofundisana-ke ngalo mthetho siphindze futhi sivule ithuba ukuthi timphunga tiwuhlabe lapho tiwuhlaba khona siwulungise siwucole kuze ukuthi mawuphasa ube sewunemivo yazo timphunga. Nekwekuthi-ke timphunga titawuthi matiqedza-ke ti-invite ama-stakeholders la ngafuna kubeka kulo mthetho ukuthi basho imivo yabo kuze ukuthi mawuphasa ube sewucukethe konke lokushido sive. Ikakhulu le Citizens Economic Empowerment Bill ibill lesijake kakhulu silitiko la commerce ngalezathu sekuthi itakhulule emaswati mase uqale kusebenza lo mthetho ukuthi akhona kwenta yamabhizinisi athole ama-incentives latsite athole ama-protections latsite athole ama-preferences latsite nekusekeleka lokukhona emnothweni lesikufisako. Siyethemba-ke ukuthi yonke le mithetho lemine itawuthi ingakaguci iphalamende ibe seyiphasile.
Indvuna ithi le mithetho-ke itawushintsha timphilo temaswati kungako isi kumcoka kutsi timphunga tifundza kabanti ngawo tiwucondzisise le mitsetfo. Kubika Giyani Msibi ngisehotela le-The George kaManzini.
Bagqugquteli bathi lunengi lwati labalutsingako basasebenta nabomake labatetfele emimangweni. Bagqugquteli bangenele tifundvo tekunakelela abomake nabatetfele letihlanganiswe yi-Taiwan Technical Mission at the George kaManzini.
Labagqugquteli bafundziswe kabanti ngekunakekela abomake labatetfele basaya kuyowuteta. Labagqugquteli bathi lolu lwati bebaludzinga kuteke kunciphe kusishiya kwabomake labatetfele.
Le lwati-ke lesitholile lento lokuthi sitawuphuma la sikhone kuyofundisa emakhaya ngento lezi sinesiciniseko nako. Kusikhuthade ukuthi bomake nawutabangimake nje baningimake lophilile emtimbeni engcondvweni nasemoyeni wakho.
Sesangena la makhaya asingayishilo kushumayela ukuthi make lo tetfele kunebungoti lo bekuthi angasheshe abe nenkinga nangabe asheshe wakhulelwa isikhathi singakafiki njenganabantwana nje labancane labanye labese sebayafihla ukuthi batetfele emakhaya bangavedi ukuthi batetfele bakhongetisa. Sibukela ukuthi kuze sibathole labo bantu labo kufanele ukuthi sisangena kula makhaya sichubeke sitifake letifundvo noma ngabe kudumbu lesimbona ukuthi ukhulelwe.
Phela siyacela umndeni wonke uhlangene babe nebamva bakhe ekhaya nabo bonke labasuke bakhona lisendvo asimsekele phela make lotetfele asesekuyo lenkonzo yokutethwala kusukela asaqala kuze kuyawufika ekugcineni.
John Myeni lobuketa inhlelo tebagcugcuteli utsi sebaceceshe bagcugcuteli labaningi ngaphansi kwalolu hlelo.
Licale nga-2016 ku-phase 1 kwathi nga-2019 yangena-ke ku-phase 2. Le nombolo lesinayo nje namhla ingeta enomborweni lenkulu esinayo thola abagcugcuteli sebangetulu kwenkulungwane kusuka sacala kubatrainer under lolu hlelo.
Lokufundza-ke kutawusita ekutseni nekusishiya kwabomake nabatetfwele kanjalo nebantfwana labasishiya uma babelekwa kuphele kutsi nya. Etindzabeni kubeka Giyani Msibi ngisedi George Kamanzini.
Khomishana welibandla letelikhetfo Sikhulu Mawandla Gamedza uthi-ke imisumbe imcoka kakhulu esigabeni sekubhalisela lukhetfo ngoba-ke bangumgogodla wemimango. Gamedza bekakhuluma ngesikhathi leli bandla lifundzisa imisumbe yesifundza sakaHhohho ngekubhalisela lukhetfo.
Kulungiselela ukubhalisela lukhetfo lwalonyaka libandla letelukhetfo nemincele inkundla i-Elections and Boundaries Commission EBC selihlangene nemisumbe yelive kubakhumbuta ngenzima yabo esigabeni sekubhalisela lukhetfo njengoba imisumbe nguyona mgogodla yemimango ngiyofisi leyesatiko sive saloyo mphakathi. Komshana waleli bandla Sikhulu Mawandla Gamedze uveta bumcoka bayo imisumbe kulesigaba sekubhalisela lukhetfo.
Uthi-ke lo mthetho lo mabhalane lotabe aregister uma ngabe kukhona tifakazelo kumele titsiyitela tidzingako kulona lo ngumsumbe akatitfoli. Esitawukhuluma nabo-ke ukuthi yini le batayifakaza basafakaza bafakaze abakwatiko lokusemthethweni ebaneliciniso nako lokho ukuthi vele bafakazela bantu labafanele vele ukuthi babhalise kuleyo ndzawo.
Labakhulumele imisumbe bavete labakufundzile ngenzima yabo kulolu khetfo.
Sisitsheliwe ukuthi singeke umntfwana lona 15 weminyaka lona 17 weminyaka akhethe kepha umntfwana lo mela ukungenela lukhetfo ngumntfwana lo sasukela eminyakeni lengu-18 kuya etulu.
Kakhulu bathe kugatha ukuthi labantu abatovota baphethe ema-ID. Lama-ID le ship code ibita khona yini. Nekuthi-ke sibukela ukuthi abantu akutawonde kube nemkhonyovu sibe liso lelikhulu ukuthi akwendeki lokuthi awuphathamisa lolu khetho.
Lo msebenzi wokufundisa imisumbe uchubekile nakutotonke tifundza telive. Etindzabeni ye-Eswatini TV kubika Samkeliswe Khoza kanti tifombe tichamke ebandleni letelukhetfo nemincele yetinkhundla.
Etindzabeni temidlalo sekutfolakale timendlela letintsatfu kwanyalo emidlalweni yemakhana zone 4 lechubekako eveni lase-Angola lapho khona live limelelwe tinhlambi letilishumi-nesitfupha. Kule timendlela Luca Fraser utfole ligolide ku-50 meters backstroke waphindze watfola imendlela yesiliva ku-100 meters backstroke. Tiana Fraser yena utfole imendlela yelitfusi ngaphansi kwa-50 meters backstroke. Le midlalo iyachubeka kanti kubhekeke ukuthi iphele mhla ka-7 kule nyanga lesetulo.
Ikhethelo lesive lemidlalo yokubhukusha lakuleli selicalile kumelele live kahle emidlalweni emakhana zone 4 lachubeka-ke eveni lase-Angola lapho khona elangeni lekuqala lithola imendlela letintsatfu. Luca Fraser ngaphasi kwe-50 meter big stroke uthole imendlela yeligolide waphinde wathola nemendlela yesiliva ngaphasi kwe-100 meter backstroke. Tiana Fraser yena uthola imendlela yelithusi ngaphasi kwe-50 meter backstroke. Thola timendlela letintsatfu elangeni lekuqala kuyinkomba ukuthi leli khethelo limisele kuphakamisa umjeka welive kulo mnyaka. Eminyakeni lophelile lemidlalo libeyibanjelwe eveni laseZambia livela buya ikhane timendlela letingetulu kwaletisithupha lokufaka ikhathi teligolide. Le midlalo iyachubeka kanzi kubheke ukuthi iphele mhla ka-7 enyangeni lesetulo. Lobikele umsakathi Eswatini TV temidlalo ngilinda Dlamini kanzi umbiko uhlanganiswe nguFabrice Msonera. Tithombe tibuye ekhethelweni lesive lekubhukusha lelise-Angola.
Kanzi-ke likhethelo lesive lekubhukusha iswimming kwanyalo libe seselingeta timendlela letimbili lokusho ukuthi timendlela lesetitfolwe live tibe sihlanu kusukela lemidlalo emakhana zone 4 icalile elangeni langalesithathu. Elangeni langalesine kungeteke imendlela yeligolide kanye neyelithusi. Luca Fraser uyachubeka nekwenta kahle kulandzela ukuthi angete lelinye ligolide. Le midlalo iyachubeka eveni lase-Angola kanzi kubhekeke ukuthi iphele ngelisonto. tetfu tangalesine nalomuhla sibahlola etimakethe kodwa sithathe isimo selitulo singakayi etimakethe.
Pay your TV license quickly and easily with MTN Momo. Simply dial *007 *3 hash and select option 8 for TV license. Enter your national ID number as your reference and the amount you wish to pay. Then enter your PIN to confirm your payment. Once your payment has been made, you'll receive a confirmation SMS of your payment. If you're a first-time payer, you get another SMS for your TV license. So legalize your entertainment from the comfort of your home. Pay your TV license the easy and convenient way with MTN Momo.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Welcome back. Siyakuvusela nawo losanza kusivulela lo mhla ehlelweni on this beautiful Friday morning. Esivedile mazingena ekseni kuthi sitabe sikhulumisana na PRO umnyango wokucondzisa timilo kukulethu Dlamini His Majesty Correctional Services. Takumela ukuthi ke lo mnyango solo uqhubeka nehlelo lwalo lokufundzisa labo labagcinwe ngekhathi ngemisebenzi yetandla. Sibabonile ke ukuthi labaningi babo bayakhona kwakha emafurniture, labanye ke baze bane masalon khona lengekhathi amajele lapho bagcinwe khona. Lolu hlelo ke eminyakeni lemithathu lendlulile labe selisukumisana nehlelo lokuthi selelimukela wonke umuntu nje elofisa ukufundzela yona imisebenzi yetandla, kungasibo labo kuphela labagcinwe khona ngekhathi ejele. Sitokhulumisana kabanti naye lapha PRO kukulethu kuva kabanti njengalo hlelo ukuthi lucuba kanjani, ngabe vele mhlambe kuba sita kanganani labo labagcinwe ngekhathi. Siyathi ukuthi lokhu kuyabasita futhi ekutheni ukuthi baphume bane makhono nasebabuyela ngephandle emimangweni kude nabo bawukhona kudiphilisa. Kungaleso zafu ke lo mnyango wakubona kufanele ukuthi usukumisele lo hlelo kude batokhona ukuthi baphume bane makhono. Kepha ke sesivele sinaye lapha umlangeni atosichazela kabanti ngalo lelo hlelo sabo ngankosi ukuthi ube nathi lo mhla ekseni. Yimvo lenhle lena leni yendako ezi HMCS ngalokuthi vele bayakhona kuba nemakhono nabo nabaphuma baphume babantu bakhona ukuthi icala lamabhizinisi abo. Kumbe nje kusinika nje just a brief background ngalo le program yenu yekufundzisa labo labagcinwe ngekhathi ngemisebenzi yetandla.
Ngiyabonga ngibonene. Ngivuka ngicala nje ngekuvusela sonke sive seMaswati nabo bonke labathi bathwala ithuba la ukuthi basibukele kunzabeni etahlukahlukene. Lolu hlelo lolu luselunesikhathi lwaqala. Luqala nje emva kuba sibone ukuthi siyakhumbula phela ukuthi besike sabang prisons sesiyabuya sesing corrections. Masesing corrections ngila khona sabona ukuthi kunesidingo sokuthi bantu abasusi nabahleti nje baboshiwe bahlale bakufike isikhathi sabo bahambe baye emakhaya bangasedakala indzawo ngoba impilo phela iyachubeka. Akufuneki ukuthi ngoba nabo sowuhleti sekude kwelokwendekako ukuthi na uphuma uchubeke nempilo. Nakhona ke emfombeni kwabonakala ukuthi asithi bantu sibafundzise emakhono. Kwaqala ke kusukela ngabona nga1995 saqala sabang corrections. Otfake lo hlelo lokuthi ke lelesikilo namuhla lokuthi kunalese sibafundise emakhono sho sesiphume nisho ngaphandle lokho kuneminyaka nje lemine kucalile. Sifika njani ke nakhona ngekuthi isikhathi sinyato sincane. Lokusenta sifike ukuthi asibafundzise abantu labangaphandle labasengabosho. Ngilokuthi umuntu umva athi angihambe ngiboshwe kuze ngilokhona ngifunze amakhono ngekhathi ejele ngoba labanye vele bayababona baphuma sebavele bacocodzele sebayabada sebayapenda sebayakha sebayashisela sabona ukuthi kumbe nesimo semnotfo eveni silukhuni kude imisebenzi sibanikele amakhono ke khona batokhona ukuthi silwe nebuphuya emangweni wakhe umuntu makukhona umvu lo seafunze likhono takucasha labanye lamangweni chubeke impilo yembili kunciphe kuganga kunciphe kungena kwabantu nasengekhathi emajele so lo hlelo lolwalubuka inhlangothi letinengi faya ekhathi ukuthi asivikele bubantu kusipende bucala baze bayongena ejele
ukubuda nje ukuthi vele ngabe lokusenelicalile nje so uvetele ukuthi selirane 3 to 4 years nyalo ingabe vele mhlawumbe lizinga nje labo labangephandle labangenelako lolu hlelo lunganani bayadini vele abantu ngalelo hlelo
ngiyabonga ngobonane ngekubuka kwethu sibuka eminyakeni lendlulile la khona bese sicale khona sikhanzile ukuthi kunesasasale likhulu vele bantu bayalithakasela lo hlelo ngoba lokunye lekumele sikubuke ukuthi bantu nje endalweni asiphiwa ngathi imvotipho ngekufanana kodwa ke kude uNkulunkulu angazange amphela talent lakhe so siye sabona ke ukuthi bantu banemakhono manje bafuna kusitwa kulomcabango labanawo ngokuthi emaphupho abo alawo makhono aphumele aye ngaphandle ngoba labanye bantu nje ungamthatha umfake eclassini ukhanza ukuthi eclassini akabambi kahle akusho ukuthi ke ngoba akabambi kahle so sesihluleki kodwa kukhona la akhona khona ungamthatha umfundisa lemisebenzi yetandla afike umvu asebenze ende kahle khona so lokho ke kwenta lokuthi bantu ngatheni bantu bemaswati umvana noma umuntu angadikhanzi ngazuthi yena akasilutho ngoba kukhona la akahle khona sasa saningi kakhulu ngoba siyababona laba lokhanza ukuthi umbe baphumile etikolweni bangakhona ukucetha noma mbe bafika bangaphumeleli kahle bayangena bakhona
so nithatha wonke umuntu lo ngacetha nasesikolweni yini leni ibuka kahle kahle mhlawumbe nje nasibuka ama requirements niye nifune ini nje kulabo labafisa ukubhalisela lo hlelo
ngiyabonga ngobonani bantu vele sibathatha kusukela ka grade 7 nalokuthi size simbeke lo grade 7 ngilokuthi lokufunza lamakhono labawendako lokulaba kwendako akusiko ukuthi bayenda nje ngokuthi bamane bafunze konje kumele bagcine bahambile bayobhala lihlolo lwabo baphase bathole certificate nalokuthi ke basafunza vele kumele ukuthi uhle utibhalela nawe la utata ikhompyuta khona ema notes akho phela so ngiko ke sithi ke kusukela ka grade 7 ngoba lokunye kudzinga ukuthi ukhone kubala lokunye kudzinga ukuthi ukhone kubhala lokunye vele kuyafuna lokuthi kube khona lokuncane lokulwati lokubhala noma nekufunza lolatiko
so nibuka ukuthi nithatha abamfla abangakhe nje mhlambe nangibekisa nje ne period of time nekuthi leyo course leyo noma leyo program leyo ivame ukuthatha nje isikhathi esinganani
letifundo tabo la kuthatha iminyaka lemithathu lokusho ukuthi kulomnyaka wekucala abantu bayafunza baseklasini bayafunza eminyakeni lolandzelako sebayahamba bayowenda ema practicals sho seba yebo bende ama practicals bese kulona lo wesithathu umnyaka sebathi polish up phinze ke sengila khona sebabhizi ngama exams abo sesiyahamba ngebudlelwane lesinabo neScott bayahamba bayobhala ba grade test babuye ne certificate tabo
okay so nithatha nithatha nje labangaki
per program noma
per program yes
I program yinye ngalokuthi phela kunalaba labanye lesibafundisa labalengekhathi kumbe ngabe sithatha kumbe ngenombolo letinengi kodwa ngento esakhona ngoba phela tabe sesekumala umnye umsebenzi ngane yonke imisebenzi siyahambe kanye siyathatha sithathe 40 webantu iprogram iyinye kube kumbe ka carpentry udakhanza kuna 40 noma ke less kuya ngalokuthi nakhona vele laba lesinabo labalengekhathi banganani ngaleso sikhathi so ungakhanza ukuthi umbasakhona ukufika ku 40 sesithi 30 ngoba kumbe nabo bayinombolo lenkulu
so yena nje lokho kunguJune umnyaka sovela uqalile setaphenze kuvuleke nini for labanye labataphenze bangena
njalo kusicala nje nyalo ngete ngasho ukuthi kutaphenze kuvuleke nini kubonene ngoba sisesekule process yekuthi siyabathatha laba
nyalo
phinze
ngatshona.
sikhumbule ukuthi kukhona labanye labaphadamiseka ngetikhathi te-COVID lekumele bachubeke lokusho ukuthi kwanyalo sisede kokuthi kutawo sidaphinze sithathenini
kutawusasata ukucala kubuye labaphazamiseka
nabo bachubeke nehlelo lwawo.
Okay. So ngifuna ukubuza lapha Nkosi ukuthi ngabe vele mhlambe lolu hlelo loluhle njengabe liyatholakala yini ko yonke iminyango even noma mhlambe kwanyalo nisabona nje ukuthi mhlambe la kumathapha noma la embabani.
Sabonga ngubonene ngekweswela letimvo tekusebenta kumbe ngabe sinato kumbe kuma institutions lamanengana noma mbe lamathashwana kodwa ngalokuthi sisengemi kahle singihulumende kulukhuni la sikhona khona sikhona eSpeak Shothen Northern Hoho nje Pixby Correctional sikhona ngiko nje besithi labadudane naSpeak bangabheka ngakhona kodwa ke bonke ke labanye ke sebatawubheka ngala kumathapha ngoba khona vele ngathi i-center yethu lenyona lenkulu lesemenda wona lama vocational skills.
Okay. Kulabo nje mhlambe la bagcinwe ngekhathi enkoze sifuna ukuva nje ukuthi abevele bona lehlelo lolu libasita kanganani especially lapho naseba mhlambe nasebalungiselela kuphuma bayo basemangweni lapho batobezisa bayawasebenzisa lamakhono abo ngabe mhlambe nanisalandzelela nje kuyonke leminyaka kuyabasita yini vele nasebaphumile kulawo makhono laba wathola ngekhathi.
Nasibuka labanengi basitakala ngoba noma akusho ukuthi nasulifakile livangeli bonke abantu bayaphendvuka kodwa lesikubonile ukuthi kubadinga inamba nakulaba lokhanza ukuthi abendi kuba ngilokuthi kude lokwekucala lokusebenta ngoba yonke info ifuna ukuthi ube nemali kuze wakhe imali kumele ube nemali so ukhanza ukuthi bede lamathulusi bede le mali ekucala ngoba nako phela kudula-dulile leti info tekusebenta ngiko ke lokuya kwento ngazuthi umbe sesingabe sesithi akuhambi kahle kodwa labanengi siyababona vele bayasebenta baphuma basebende sebacashile emangweni kunalabanye lesebabacashile kunalabanye lesebaqala emabhizinisi bafundziswe ngilomunye siyakubona nje vele lo mphumela lomuhle mningi nje kakhulu labanye ukhanze ukuthi sebafundisi bayashumayela labanye ukhanze ukuthi also bekafunza so graduateile so kunenge nje sikubonako vele lokwendekako
kunenge vele nikwendako nemasaloni nawo bakery farming sebaba bochwepheshe
sizama lokuthi yebo kona ngeze sikhona ukuthi singawabutha onke emakhono ebantu kodwa sizama lokuthi noma ngabe kude lokucabangako but ugcine sowuthatheka sowuthawo yadinga ngakhona kubhaka ngiyofunza kubhaka la uphuma ngiwenda likheke ngende emakheke nalo sekunabo baby shower kunabo ma birthdays timfo letiningi letidzinga emakheke.
So baye bathengisele bobani nje nasebatendile letimvo lokubhakiwe naloko lokulinyiwe kukhona vele mhlambe ititolo lesenikhona kwenta tivumelano nato nikhona kubathengisela letimvo.
Ngubonene lengekhathi namasele ngekhathi asithengisi ngoba bafunza ngako phinze basebenzise kona letinko phinze badle bona naloko lokulinywa ko baphinze badle kona kodwa ke nase aphumile umuntu uyakhona kwenta budlelwane nebantu labathide akhona kubathengisela thina sichamuka la khona athi umuntu awungangifolela yini lokangithengela kumbe singachamuka ke lapho sesiyazama ukusida kulotofuna lotovula inhlitiyo amside amthengele timvo takhe
sona laba batako nje nalaba khela ama furniture nabo it's the same thing
kodwa lesikubonile ukuthi vele imarket eyinkulu kude umvulo ongayifuni furniture kude umvulo ongafuni kwakhelwa kude umvulo ongafuni ushiselelwa so abanzinzi vele abanzinzi sisengase vele safika la khona sesithi hayi biyani ngala sitobona usinisita kanjani vele nje imarket lehambako.
Sisakhuluma nje ngama furniture ngoba siye sinibone nase trade fair nikhangisa ngaloko lokwakhiwe ngibo laba labagcina ngekhathi iyabuya nje this year ingabe vele mhlambe indabeni khona yini nokuva nje ukuthi vele leyo exposure leyo yalama products alabo labagciniwe ingabe kunibeka phi nini kunsita kangana nje ukuthi vele imisebenzi yabo ibonakale lapha ekhangiswa.
Ngubonene nasi ngetesaba khona vele ngabe sibalimate umoya labamva bethu ngoba ngila nabo batvala khona ukuthi sende info lephilako lenhle leyokhangiswa ikhangiselwe abantu bonke bala eSwatini nebangaphandle nalabakhulu bakulelive kakhulukade batobe babona imisebenzi yabo letandla so vele ngeke kwendeke singabi khona kuyasisida kakhulu ngoba kuyabakhuthaza bona ukuthi lokulaba kwendako akusiko ukuthi bamane bayenda nje kodwa bayawubona lo mphumela ukuthi nakunyalo sekuyobona ngilabanye emva kwaloko sekuchamuke ama-order sicela nisakhele lokho sicela nako bona-ke lapho bayafunza bayachubeka ngelwadi bayacecesheka bayembili
ngoba vele bathume njengala makhabishi abo lamakhulu netipinatshi letinkulu nabosofa yes
nemibhetse lemihle
so kuba kwathatha nje isikhathi esinganani nje kwakha tonke letimvo leto
kuyashiyana ngetengasho ngubonene kodwa nje angeke kusithathe umnyaka ngoba yona nje na ungathi uyacela ukuthi sitokwendela 3 months mningi ngabe sokutfolile imvo yakho nawulethe material yakho kahle lokwendela ukuthi sinawulethe material ngilokuthi sitele imali njengoba ngisho sitele imali yekuthenga kanti siyafuna lokuchubeka sende sibese sesithi ke thina awu ngoba uthi ukubonile lokulapha le trade fair naku kona i-quotation material yakho ngunayi ungahamba uyithole kuphi ibita imali engayani bese siyakunika sewuyahamba yonothenga watithengela i-material thina sikhweleto emsebenzi 3 months amningi 3 months 2 months
okay so nasevula masango likhona lo hlelo lo nakhona bayakhona ukwendela imisebenzi yetandla nabo bakhona ukufundza amakhono ngalamakhono
kukhona lukhona lo hlelo nasevula masango yebo kona akuselo lucine kakhulu kodwa likhona lo lemsebenzi yetandla ngoba phela umfana uyambona semncane lapha ukuthi hey ubathi umfaka eclassini uzama kumsita umsekele ukuthi akabiye ngalana utawumkhanza lapha ngaphandle washat moto tebantu uthi usembukile usawashat moto umkhanze so endaweni so yambona ukuthi hayi lo mfana akusiko ukuthi ngoba sibe sisebenzisa amagama lamabi laba limatako so uthi usivoma kana kasiso sivoma akulingana vele ama capabilities abantu awayuze afanana but sebenzisa lelikhono lakhe mfundzise kulokulombonako ukuthi kuko ugood kiko mlekelele ukuthi alidevelopele le talent lakhe seliphumele ngaphandle so nakhona kukhona kuyafuywa tinkuku kufuyiwe kunetinkomo kuyandiwa nekubatabata lokukhona
okay kumbe sisengasamaphathelo nje ngosikuva nje kumbe uphinze sekumbude sivele ukuthi ngabe yini mhlambe ama requirements lathingekile kumbe nabafisa kuba ingcenye yalo hlelo
ngiyabonga ngubonani labafisa kuba ingcenye yalo hlelo umnyango wekulungisa neconzatmilo uvulile ngokuthi abede batofundzela ikakhulukazi labo labathi babhala bacela benda ticelo ukuthi abatofunza benda ama applications akutofunza la kuma vocational skills nalaba ke labasalale ka covid sithi ke buyani maswati lamahle sitocala hlelo lolusha sichubeke nisiye embili ngalesithathu leliviki letako mhla 10 laba kamanzini shothi wo onke nje letifunza talaveni bangeda lekumathapha ngoba labanye kumbe bagejekile lespeak kodwa-ke ababuye betele kumathapha naloyo lothi eyi mina yathi sekungengcile angizange nga-aplya abuye utova ngokuthi songasidakala kanjani ungabese sowuphele emandla ukuthi eyi vele sekungigejile ngalesithathu kuleli viki letako ngensimbi yemfica e-correctional staff college kumathapha siwotani maswati lamahle sitobonisana ukuthi senda njani kulwa nekuhlupheka kwekuphuya nemisebenzi sichubeke siphile siye embili
okay ngoba somametela ke nkhosi angeta nje bathi boo bafika baba 100 ingabe nidawenda kanjani ngoba I think uvetile ukuthi nifune bo around 30 to 40 nidawabahlukanisa kanjani lini letayibuka nje yebo laba lasabafikile
lokho kulicinzo ngoba nesikubukile kunetindlela sitasebenzise ikakhulukazi ngoba phela vele umuntu kuze singakhohlwa ukuthi e-correctional i-security indzawo lesetulu ngezinga le-security kuningi vele lesitokubuka kuningi lesitokulandzelela lokho ungasho ukuthi ufunza wafika kuphi kufunza nebunguwe bakho cha but kukhona lokunye lesitokubuka lekumbe ngete sakuvetela la esiveni kwekuthi vele ulungeleni ukuthi wena ungaba ngiloto wohla wenyuka la kulamagceka ase-correctional services la khona utawuhlangana nalabathe kumbe bavalelwa lengekhathi ngeke bese sokuda nemikhiba lethide siyakubuka kuningi leli sitokubuka nekuthi ke simaswati buve bakho konke lokho siyakubuka so sinelithemba lokuthi intfo letinye amongst lokunye letingasita kokuthi sikhona kokuthi sihlunge
so bavame ukuthi every day Monday to Friday
nasebafunza vele beda onke malanga
okay
nasebafunza beda onke malanga lokunye lesingakuveta kuba ngilokuthi njengalokho sisho ukuthi side imali umuntu ke la ababhadali labamvu kudela sibabhadalisa khona sizama nje kubambisa umango shothi na kuyi community project yethu maybe kufaka nje lokunye ekhathi lokuthi asesebe umango lesebenda naye lesiphila nawo sisita kanjani bantu babethu labanzinzayo sibasita kanjani ngoba nalaba labala ngekhasi babo sis nabo futhi balaba lengaphansi so ngiko ke sithi ke sikhethi sitawuhlunga kona kuhlunga basale linani lesilifunako ngale tindlela letingasiko ukuthi litawulimata umuntu noma betamgongonya umuntu kodwa nje tindlela letabasebaleni ukuthi cha ngaloko kumbe ngete wakhona ukuthi bese singamcocisa ke umuntu ngeke bese sesamlahla naloyo sinabo psychologists batamlungisa ukuthi no ungakhathateki ungalimali lokungaphumeleli inyalo la impilo mbili awuchubeka khona la utawusedakala khona
no ngiyavakala nkosi sibanga kakhulu isikhathi sakho lomhla ekseni mbukeli ngethemba ukuthi sawutivele lapha ngathi ke amafisi okufundzela yona imisebenzi yetandla HMCS so ungachumana nabo ukuvaka abantu imininingwane mhlawumbe lesingakayideki lana mangabe ufuna ukuvaka abantu ungachumana nabo vetile ke lapha kukuletha ukuthi next week Wednesday laba kaManzini nasesipiki sebangavela khona iminyango yekucondzisa dinimile bayobhalisela kuba ingcenye yalolu hlelo asibhekele emakethe sidaba sichubeka nehlelo
Lesi sikhathi lapho khona emaphoyisa agubha kuba khona kwawo even. Kulapho kukuthathwa khona sive ukuthi sike sihlale phansi sibuke bumcoka bemaphoyisa empilweni yabantu. Siphindze sibuke indlela letinsha tekuphepha kubo bonke bucala lobuveta sihloko. Sive sakangwane siyakhunjutwa ukuthi singawafaki emaphoyisa etinkulumeni tepolitiki ngoba liphoyisa alingeni futhi alingenelani nepolitiki. Emaphoyisa alwa nebucala netingoti temgwaco kuphela nje. Ingako emaphoyisa athi wonke umuntu eveni akahlale ngaphandle kwekunceneka ukuthi angahle ahlaselwe tilwane tasendle. Umuntu lohlala Eswatini akatiphilele atisebentele ngaphandle kwekwesaba kuhlaselwa kwemucwa nekucekelwa phansi kwembahla yakhe. Nawe wena lophathekile emaphoyisa athi digulele kahle uze uphile ngaphandle kwekuphatamiseka. Lokungenteka ngekuthi tidlova tingene tihlasele labo labakunakekelako kuleyo ndlu. Sivele sihlakaniphile nguleso lesiphakamisa kusebenta kwemaphoyisa nabo bonke labalwa nebucala. Ngale kwaloko timbungushe tiyawuwangenela emazinyane kungenamuntu ekhaya. Lo mlayeto niulethelwa ngemaphoyisa embube abambisene nomsakato wetithombe.
Welcome back selimizuzu lesihlanu uthisha insimbi esikhombisa lomhla ekseni sesidakhulumisana naye Sergeant Kule kuva ngesimo semgwaco sekuvusele emakabani lomhla ekseni ngabe kuhambeka kanjani emgwacweni elive
Anguvusele Mthombeni wena ukuthi awukhona kufinyelela lapho ufisa kuyakhona ngesikhathi ngalokuphephile futhi kanjalo. Kanti ke nawusuka lapha yekeni lasengwenya uthatha umgwaqo omkhulu lobheka khona lapha endasi kumathapha kulo mgwaqo loyo asicaphele labo labasebenza emgwaqweni baningi ngetigaba ngokwehlukahlukana yena siqiniseko sokuthi la ukhona khona uyanakesisa emehlo akho akhaliphile uthi nasewubonile bese uthatha ke leso sinqumo lesiyaba ngileso lesifanele. Bakhona labaheshako bakhona labantu kusayemalampu kanjalo ke ne-cooling station lapha eTule eMangwaneni lapho ke iyawumisa dona imoto lesinkulu ngemzila wangasenxele bese kuthi imoto lesincane ke dona denhlula emzileni longasekudla kanti nasomhlolo road ekhathi edolobheni laseMbamane losuka lapho bo eCourt
ukushaya isandla selection park yoqhamukela lapha eLunga House leso steladi leso solo kuyakhiwa lapho sisebenzisa ke imigwaco lesivulele yona kwesikhashana lesingakugcizelela nje kakhulu bekunene ubeketela kuleyo ndzawo njengoba vele timodolo kuyawuthi dilanzelane nelitubane lesiyawuhamba ngalo kuyaba litubane leliphansi kakhulu ngokuthi-ke nangabe vele uyeva usingeke ukhona ukusibeketelela lesimo zama ukusebenzisa leminye imigwaqo le-fire cut umgwaqo lomkhulu luyawungena lapha endase central esikolweni e-high school noma-ke uhambe ngawo umgwaqo lomkhulu uziyongena ngakhona emangwaneni uqhamuka ekhathi nekhathi nalo-ke lidolobha kanjalo-ke futhi nalapha endasi elibonjeni nasisuka khona lapha-ka lohlupheko sibheka khona komhlume lapha-ka khakho u-MR24 nalapho umgwaqo uvaliwe sisebenzisa inzawana lesivulele yona kwesikhashana bese kuthi nawusuka ekalovumisa ubheka khona lapha enhlangano kunetinzawana nje letimbidlana letinsashwana lapho sibekele wona ema-temporal speed humps leyo ndaba imoto lesinciphise lona-ke litubane watise ukuthi kunetinqolo letinkulu letijuba wona-ke umgwaqo nakhona bekunene asishayele ngalokukhulu ukucophelela kanti nawungena edolobheni lasenhlangano sekuvele kuphakanyiswa idona timpawu letikhombisako ukuthi awulabo labasebendako ukuthi awusilungisela lo mgwaqo losuka lapha ekhasini ungene khona lapho kubomjuda uyalungiswa loyo mgwaqo loyo nakhona bekunene asicaphele leto tincola letinkulu nalabo labasebenda khona-ke emgwaqweni kanti nawubuya khona kamanzini nga-MR9 usuka enhlangano lapha kwehlabovu uze utofika khona lapha emhlaleni nakuloyo mgwaqo loyo kunetinzawana lapho kubuka wona-ke ama-potholes esithi-ke bashayeli abacaphelisise basawusebenzisa-ke umgwaqo kungasiko kuphela lapha ehliselweni nakuletinye nje tifundza emehlo akho umshayeli akanakisise akabe ngelakhaliphile kucenza yona-ke indlela ngicine-ke ngayo ngihamba yave lapha edolobheni elikhulu lakamanzini siyawukhumbula ukuthi umgwaqo losuka lapha ezakhele 10 Bergen Street lofika lapha endase satellite bus rank bowuvaliwe itolo kepha-ke sesivulelwe-ke lowo mgwaqo loyo kulandzela ukuthi selibuyiselwe-ke litiyela lesicela-ke bashayeli bakunake ngiloko ukuthi-ke kude lama-speed humps lamaningi bekakhona lapha kwatise kulo mgwaqo bowulungiswa nekuthi-ke imidwebo yaphansi usede kuleyo ngcingwana leyo ngako-ke asichubeke sinakisise sisawusebenzisa umgwaqo nalapha eTulu Central ku-Manchester Street nawusuka lapha ebus rank owelela mshiya lo walapha eTulu lapha e-Central banente emgwaqo nakuleyo mgwaqo loyo bowulungiswa itolo ebusuku kepha-ke siyakholwa ukuthi nyalo ekuseni siyawuqhubeka siwusebenzise ngendlela leyo bangileyo lephephile kwatise sinakhona lelo tiyela lifakiwe kepha kusede imidwebo yaphansi nakuto tibanete emgwaqo lethi lapha e-Central umgwaqo wethu ulungisiwe kusede-ke imidwebo yaphansi nakhona ikakhulukazi leyawuniketa lithuba leliphephile lokuwela kwalabo labahamba-ke inyawo siyacela abashayeli-ke bachubeke babahloniphe babanikete tigaba tokuwela letiyawubangileto letiphephile akube indlela lenhle kuwonke losebenzisa umgwaqo nanendlini emsakato sinifisele ilanga lelihle naleliphephile yebo nisachubeka nemsebenzi wenu siyabonga kakhulu Thombe
Sibakhulu ugule kusiniketala yombiko umbukeli azivele sibahlolete emakethe sibuye netange phandle kwakuleli
to assassinate Russian President Vladimir Putin. National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby.
One thing I can tell you for certain is that the United States was not involved in this incident in any way, contrary to Mr. Peskov's lies. And that's what they are, just lies.
Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov blamed Kyiv and Washington earlier Thursday without providing any evidence of their involvement in the attack.
These attempts to disown this, both by Kyiv and by Washington, are, of course, absolutely ridiculous. We know very well that decisions about such actions, about such terrorist attacks, are made not in Kyiv, but in Washington, and Kyiv does what it is told to do.
At the International Criminal Court in The Hague on Thursday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called for a war crimes investigation of Putin. On Wednesday, he said Ukraine was too busy defending itself from Russian attacks to launch such a strike on the Kremlin.
We don't attack Putin or Moscow. We fight on our territory. We are defending our villages and cities. We don't have, enough weapons for this.
In Brussels, European Union Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell had this warning for Moscow.
We call Russia not to use this alleged attack as an excuse to continue the escalation of the war. This is what worries us.
A Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson said all parties should refrain from any action that could further escalate the situation. And when asked about Beijing offering to mediate an end to the Russia-Ukraine war, Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Wednesday the U.S. would welcome any country's efforts towards a just and durable peace. But he added,
But it has to begin with a couple of things. First, a clear understanding that in this instance, there's a victim and there's an aggressor. There's no moral equivalence between the two positions. And I have to say, until recently, it was very unclear whether China accepted that basic principle. I'm still not sure that they do, but at least President Xi has now had a conversation with President Zelensky.
China has thus far not called on Russia to withdraw its troops from Ukraine.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Thursday he was convinced that Russian President Putin would face an international war crimes court when Ukraine wins the war that has been raging for over a year. In a speech titled "No Peace Without Justice for Ukraine," given in The Hague, the city that hosts the International Criminal Court, Zelensky said that Putin deserves to be sentenced for these criminal actions right here in the capital of the international law.
Dressed in his trademark khaki, Ukraine's president made a surprise visit to the International Criminal Court in The Hague Thursday. Speaking after, Volodymyr Zelensky said Russian President Vladimir Putin must feel the full power of justice and called for a full-fledged international criminal tribunal.
Of course, we all want to see different Vladimir here in The Hague. The one who deserves to be sentenced for these criminal actions right here in the capital of the international law. And I'm sure we will see that happen when we win.
Zelensky wants a special tribunal to prosecute so-called crimes of aggression, the invasion and occupation of a state. Separately in March, the ICC issued an arrest warrant for Putin over the alleged deportation of children from Ukraine. And Russian soldiers have been accused of some 85,000 incidents of war crimes, including torture, rape, and the targeted killing of civilians. Russia denies committing atrocities in Ukraine, is not a member of the ICC, and rejects its jurisdiction. Putin is not going to surrender to stand trial. However, this warrant could limit his travel to ICC member states, where he could potentially be arrested. Zelensky's visit comes as Ukraine prepares to launch its spring counteroffensive against occupying Russian forces. He said Thursday that the effort is countrywide.
We believe in success in our counteroffensive mission. It's very important. We do what we can. We do our best. Our society, not only soldiers, our society which work on our army.
Russia has stepped up attacks ahead of the counteroffensive. Early Thursday, Odessa and the capital Kyiv were targeted by 24 combat drones. And Wednesday, at least 23 civilians were killed by Russian shelling in the frontline southern region of Kherson.
In the eastern Ukrainian city of Kherson, At least 21 people have been killed and dozens injured after a Russian shelling in the city on Wednesday. Kyiv says residential areas were targeted as well as a train station. Viewer discretion is advised as some visuals may be disturbing.
A Kherson supermarket, the scene of a deadly Russian attack on Wednesday. Shelling which left many dead and more wounded, caught by surprise while trying to do their morning shopping.
The people who were there, I saw 2 dead, and I don't remember anything else. I was stunned. Everything was covered by smoke, by dust, and panic.
I was going to the checkout when it hit me. People were wounded. They opened the emergency exit, and I ran. It hit my arm and leg.
The supermarket wasn't the only target of the Russian shells. Kherson train station, where many passengers were waiting to board a train to Lviv, was also hit, leaving many wounded as firefighters fought to save what they could of the infrastructure. The latest attack comes ahead of the weekend-long curfew that has been announced in Kherson. According to officials, the city will be closed for exit and entry for 58 hours. Residents will be able to go for short walks near their homes or visit shops, but will be required to carry identity documents with them. The curfew is believed to be a sign of an upcoming Ukrainian counter-offensive in the region. The city of Kherson has been subject to regular shelling since it was recaptured by Kyiv in November. But Russian troops are not far away. They often launch attacks from the opposite side of the Dnipro River. Even if the city itself is under Ukrainian control, much of the Kherson region is occupied by Moscow, a region that Kyiv is expected to try and reclaim in the upcoming counter-offensive.
Torrential rains and flooding in Rwanda have killed at least 129 people this week, with reports the toll could rise still further. A search and rescue operation is underway. The extreme weather began last week when heavy rains triggered mudslides that washed away homes and left some roads inaccessible. The Rwanda Weather Agency has warned that more rain is coming.
Their homes completely destroyed by flooding, thousands of Rwandans are seeking shelter wherever they can. Unlike more than 100 others, they escaped with their lives, but little else remains.
I have no money to rent a house, no husband, no children. I don't know where to go. This disaster was dangerous for us.
As you can see, I am left with nothing, no bed and no house. I came here for a job. I am safe, but all my belongings are gone.
The heavy rains started Tuesday evening in the country's western and northern provinces. Then came the floods and landslides. Rivers of mud swept away homes, bridges, and roads, cutting off access to several areas. The government is rushing emergency supplies to the worst-hit areas and says it will extend financial support to families who lost loved ones. But residents are fearful because rivers are still raging, risking more mudslides and flooding. Experts say extreme weather events are happening more often and with more intensity due to climate change. Africa, which contributes the least to global warming, is bearing the brunt.
The United Nations praised Sudan's factions on Wednesday to guarantee safe passage of humanitarian aid after 6 trucks were looted and airstrikes in the capital undermined a supposed truce.
To plea to help the helpless. Armed with a mission to find ways to bring relief to the millions of Sudanese unable to flee, the United Nations aid chief arrived in Port Sudan amidst the unrest for talks about providing humanitarian aid. He said he was seeking guarantees from both warring factions for the safe passage of staff and supplies.
We know that these general assurances need to be translated into specific commitments. And we have identified a range of very specific commitments which we would like to see discussed, agreed, committed to, and then implemented.
At the moment, many aid operations are suspended, and those running are having difficulty reaching those who need it. Worse still, 6 trucks bringing supplies to the country's western Darfur region had been looted en route. Even before the fighting erupted mid-April, a third of Sudan's population was heavily dependent on humanitarian aid, and current shortages of food, water and electricity have left families living on the brink. The UN Secretary General has called for calm, urging the international community to put pressure on both sides of the conflict.
A country like Sudan, that has suffered so much, that is in such a desperate economic and humanitarian situation, cannot afford a struggle for power between two people.
According to the UN, the conflict has displaced over 330,000 people inside Sudan, whilst tens of thousands have fled to neighbouring countries for refuge.
Fishermen in Guinea have suffered severe burns and blisters after coming into contact with a chemical agent spilled into the sea. Authorities have launched an official investigation. Viewer discretion is advised as some visuals may be disturbing.
Kwasi hasn't left his room for 2 weeks ever since his last fishing trip. His body is covered in such severe burns that he struggles to stand up.
After work, I scooped up some water to wash my face, hands and crutch. The day after, I noticed burns on my body.
Close to 300 Ghanaian fishermen have suffered similar burns over the past month. All had come into direct contact with seawater off the coast. This national hospital treats fishermen for free. Dr. Kaba is part of the commission set up to investigate what has caused these injuries.
It's an external burn on the genitals. When the fishermen relieve themselves, they use seawater to wash afterwards. This is a burn, like a regular burn that you can get from boiling water. The only specificity is that it was caused by an unidentified chemical agent. It's not an illness, it's not a virus, and it isn't contagious.
Many believe that boats have spilled toxic waste at high sea. Samples are currently being analysed at laboratories in the capital. At this fishing port in Bulbine, the so-called fisherman's disease has had a knock-on effect.
We sell very little at the moment. It's very difficult to get fish. Fishermen are scared to go to sea now.
Senegalese fishermen suffered similar symptoms in November 2020. It's still unknown what chemical substance is behind the illness and where it came from.
There is renewed hope this week of an effective treatment for Alzheimer's. The U.S. pharmaceutical giant Eli Lilly has announced its experimental Alzheimer's drug slowed cognitive by 35% compared to a placebo.
Fresh hope for those with Alzheimer's, as an effective new drug could be just months away from hitting the shelves. The experimental medication developed by Eli Lilly and Co. has been shown to significantly slow cognitive decline.
The results from the donanemab study give hope to our patients and our families that in fact we can now intervene on the underlying disease process itself, rather than just treating the symptoms.
The tests were undertaken by over 1,700 people in the early stages of Alzheimer's over a period of 18 months in the United States, with the medicine slowing the progression of the disease by 35% compared to those who had taken a placebo. However, there were 2 deaths attributed to brain swelling during the testing stage, a side effect of the drug. Over 50 million people currently suffer with Alzheimer's worldwide, a disease which causes memory loss and a lack of judgment. The drug, called donanemab, works by removing plaque buildups in the brain, known as amyloid, that are a hallmark of Alzheimer's disease. Experts say that while it's not a cure, it's the strongest evidence yet that removing these plaques benefits patients with the fatal disease.
These findings are significant for the field. I think mostly for our patients, that we now have treatments out there that can have an impact on the underlying disease process itself.
The drug is poised to become the third in its class on the market following US approval of 2 similar medicines. But donanemab is the first to show evidence of significantly slowing cognitive decline. Eli Lilly has said that it plans to file for approval from the US Food and Drug Administration by the end of June. The company is still working on finalizing a price for the drug, but it is thought that it will hit the market at over $25,000.
Visiting Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi congratulated Syria's Bashar al-Assad on Wednesday for overcoming sanctions and achieving victory in the country's 12-year-long civil war in which Tehran has been a major ally.
Come Saturday, they'll have spent 4 days camping outside Buckingham Palace, waiting to catch a glimpse of the newly crowned king as he passes by.
Our families say we are quite mad, but... You only live once. Yes. You can never get it back again.
Just like the preparations for Charles III's coronation, they've planned everything in advance.
Oh, we need coffee. Well, we have the important things like wine, Prosecco.
The royal family has invited well over 2,000 guests, including around 100 heads of state, while 29,000 police officers will ensure security across London as part of Operation Golden Orb. Tourists are also looking forward to being part of this moment.
I love the royal family. I'm so glad I'll be able to see this.
We feel part of all this joy too.
In the meantime, onlookers are able to watch the rehearsals. 6,000 troops will take part in the procession.
Well, would you miss it if you could see it?
It's fabulous. England at its best.
It was like Cinderella.
And while it will be the second in their lifetime, it's the first time this couple will see it in the flesh.
We'd not seen televisions before, but my uncle bought a television, tiny little screen, and all the family all squashed into one room to watch this tiny little screen. Black and white. You'll see it in colour. Yeah.
For now, calm lingers along the procession route before the 3-day weekend kicks off, with Brits set to enjoy a bank holiday on Monday.
In 48 hours, the official coronation ceremony will begin, which will see King Charles anointed and crowned king. The 73-year-old automatically became monarch when his mother, the late Queen Elizabeth, died in November last year. But Saturday, we will see the official service has been carried out at Westminster Abbey, where it has taken place since 1066. And people have already headed off to London with tents and bunting to watch the procession.
It's a message not just to the Middle East, but to the entire world. The two allies are back in business after a large economic and political delegation from Iran landed in Damascus on Wednesday, much to the delight of the Syrian president.
When the war against Syria started 12 years ago, Iran didn't hesitate to stand alongside Syria despite the threats. Iran unreservedly offered all its political and economic support and even shed blood for the country, which is the most valuable thing a person can provide to their fellow human.
While Arab governments have isolated Syria from regional politics, thousands of Iranian-backed fighters were sent from around the Middle East to support Assad's forces during the war. The two leaders now appear to be cementing a long-term partnership.
We hope that the agreements signed between the two countries, especially those in the fields of economics and commerce, where there is a good potential in both countries, are implemented. And implementation of these agreements can definitely help upgrade the level of bilateral relations.
But it's also a tactical move, as President Raisi may be banking on regional powers eventually aiding the war-torn country.
If the GCC countries in particular are willing to invest in and pay for Syria's reconstruction, in my view, Iranian companies will be very interested to take part in that as one way to resuscitate Iran's own economy in the face of very crippling US sanctions.
The visit hasn't gone unnoticed abroad. The United States warns that countries worldwide should be concerned about this deepening of ties.
In nearly 6 months of unrest in Iran, the regime turned to wholesale jailing of dissenting voices and threats to media overseas. But some experts say those tactics have lost their power to instill fear.
6 months of civil unrest after a young woman's death in the custody of Iran's morality police. In September of last year, 22-year-old Mahsa Amini was arrested for what the Islamic Republic described as immodest attire. Tehran released a video claiming to show Amini collapse in custody and blamed the fall for triggering a fatal heart attack. Her family disputed that account in an interview with VOA. Almost immediately, nationwide anger became worldwide condemnation of Iran's harsh treatment of Amini and countless others like her. In response, Tehran began jailing journalists critical of the regime. Iranian journalist and media advocate Yeganeh Rezaian watched from Washington as the government turned up the heat.
In multiple cases, we at the Committee to Protect Journalists were in touch with lawyers who were representing these journalists and their families. And one morning we wake up and our source is gone because the lawyer himself was arrested and thrown in jail.
The Committee to Protect Journalists, or CPJ, documented nearly 100 media arrests from the end of September, when protests began, to early January. Of those, half were women.
Based on our annual research in 2022, at the end of the year, not only Iran became the biggest jailer of journalists in the world, but it was also the biggest jailer of women or female journalists.
Those arrested are accused of charges from vague anti-state activity to espionage, a crime punishable by death. But it's not just inside Iran's borders. As Rezaian says, Iran looks to silence its critics abroad, like VOA Persian host Masih Alinejad.
The Islamic Republic hired 3 criminals from Eastern Europe. They were clearly a part of a criminal syndicate. They were hired by the Islamic Republic to kill me on U.S. soil.
But that was just one attempt.
The Islamic Republic actually tried to kidnap me first. The FBI stopped the kidnapping plot and they charged 4 people. One of them, Nilufar Bahadouri, is right now in prison. She received 4 years prison sentence.
Alinejad says she isn't deterred by Iran's attempts to reach her in the U.S.
So I tell myself that I have 2 options: to feel miserable every single day or to make my oppressors feel miserable. Honestly, I choose the second one, and that made me so powerful. Because look, I'm only 45 kilos. You see that I'm not even carrying a weapon, but they're scared of me. They're scared of millions of Iranian women like me who say no to them.
Back in Washington, Rezaian says that although Iranians no longer fear the regime like they once did, the threats and following violence remain very real.
And I fear for them. But I'm glad that they are brave and they are not afraid of telling the truth. They are not afraid of covering their own country and its realities.
Iran's permanent mission to the UN did not respond to VOA's request for comment. But the Islamic Republic recently announced the pardoning of tens of thousands of Iranians arrested since protests began.
Environmental groups sue the U.S. government over SpaceX launch license, plus a pair of spacewalks outside the International Space Station and a glimpse at the destruction that scientists say awaits our home planet.
We begin this week with a pair of spacewalking duos outside the International Space Station. The first features Russian cosmonauts Sergei Prokopyev and Dmitry Petelin. The engineers spent 7 hours outside the space station relocating a radiator to cool a multi-purpose laboratory module and installing a new airlock. The two are scheduled for another spacewalk next week. Earlier, and still outside the space station, it was NASA astronaut Steve Bowen and the United Arab Emirates Sultan Al Nayadi also spending 7 hours preparing for the installation of the station's power generation system. The two readied the space station for 2 new solar arrays set for delivery this year aboard SpaceX's 28th commercial resupply mission to the outpost. Speaking of SpaceX, the private spaceflight juggernaut had a pair of successful launches just weeks after the partially successful launch of its Starship. More on that in a minute. But this SpaceX flight from Florida's Cape Canaveral launched 2 satellites for telecommunications company SES, which says its hardware will provide broadband connectivity all over the world.
Engines full power, and liftoff of Viasat 3. Go Viasat, go Falcon Heavy.
SpaceX also launched its Falcon Heavy rocket this week, which the company says is among the world's most powerful. SpaceX says the rocket's mission was to carry 3 satellites into orbit. Now then, back to SpaceX's Starship. The company launched the world's most powerful rocket to great fanfare before it exploded shortly after takeoff. Still, the SpaceX team claimed victory. Environmentalists were not impressed. Conservation groups on Monday sued the Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, over its approval of expanded launch operations near a national wildlife refuge in South Texas. The Starship launch hurled debris and shrapnel at least several hundred meters and torched nearly 1.5 hectares of nearby ground. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service says it also sent a cloud of pulverized concrete drifting more than 10 kilometers. Environmental groups call for a full environmental impact study, which the FAA has not yet done. SpaceX founder Elon Musk said the launch's impact amounted to a human-made sandstorm and said he was not aware of any meaningful damage to the environment. Finally this week, scientists for the first time witnessed a dying sun-like star that swelled for eons before getting so big that it swallowed a nearby gas planet. Scientists say the same thing will probably happen to planet Earth deep into the future when our sun morphs into a red giant in about 5 billion years.
29 minutes after 7, Steve Salapota ngaphandle kwakuleli. Let's take a break. Nasibuya sikhulumisana na Fabrice, our sports journalist.
Pay your TV license quickly and easily with MTN Momo. Simply dial *007 *3 hash and select option 8 for TV license. Enter your national ID number as your reference and the amount you wish to pay. Then enter your PIN to confirm your payment. Once your payment has been made, you'll receive a confirmation SMS of your payment. If you're a first-time payer, you get another SMS for your TV license. So legalize your entertainment from the comfort of your home. Pay your TV license the easy and convenient way with MTN Momo.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Minutes after 7, welcome back and thank you for staying with us. We have Fabrice Msonera, who has joined us. A very good morning, Fabrice. How are you?
It's a very good morning. It's a Friday, another bumper weekend of activities in the world of sport, and I can say, what a weekend ahead of us. It could be a different story for local football. Talk about South African English Premiership. And
let's start with local football. Particularly interested in. I think there was Green Mamba was playing on the 3rd of May, wasn't it?
Yeah, against Young Buffaloes.
Let's talk about that game before we look at the fixtures for the weekend.
I think for me, it's so if I was telling someone, if you think the English Premiership is at the climax of where it's supposed to be, then you haven't seen anything, because locally it's where now the attention is the MTN Premier League, because we're talking about 1 point separating number 1 and number 2, and these two teams have got 2 remaining games. The game between number 1 and number 2, of course, playing midweek on Wednesday at King Sobhuza Memorial II in Hlangano. 1-0 was the final score. Saviola Sandile Kametse being the man of the game for Young Buffaloes. Now they've edged closer to log leaders. And I think for me, if you had to look at the remaining games for both sides, then you ask yourself, can really a Green Mamba pull these chains and then maybe win their first trophy since 2018-2019? Now, the Leopards have got a game against Devon Sundowns this weekend. After that, they go to Royal Leopard. Another fixture that is tough for them, because we're talking about the Armed Forces Derby when they play Royal Leopard. So this is their game against young Buffaloes. Look at this finish. The defense, I don't know where it was, but Savira being Savira, he was in the right place at the right time. Goalkeeper or a mistake, and he's saying, what should I do for people to believe that I deserve to be where I be? But I think this guy, for the past 4 to 5 seasons, he's scored more than 40 goals. It shows how, and he's not your number 9, he's a number 10. So it shows the effort that is put in. And I was actually getting questions, how old is he now? And then I think if you look at his performance as early as 2015 to up to now, you can tell the experience that he has in winning serious matches and very important matches. So this victory has put young Buffaloes in a very good position. And I'm looking at the games they're left with. I was talking about Green Mamba before that highlight to say they're left with Leopard, a game I think it won't be easy for them to win against Sundowns this weekend. And then young Buffaloes have got newly promoted Madlenya, and then they have got also already relegated Tabangulu Kedis. So do you understand how easy it's going to be maybe for Buffaloes? They visit Madlenya at Mairuga Stadium on Sunday. At the bottom of the screen, second you can see. And then Green Mamba have got Denver Sundowns. And I think anything I draw, we put Green Mamba in a tight position. And young Buffaloes, if they win that game against Madlenya, then they could take the leading position. Games begin on this Friday at Prince of Wales. Earlier on, 7 Dreams already relegated, going back to the National First Division against another relegated side, Tabangulu Kedis. Quite surprising because last season they finished in the top 7. You want to know what happened to the management, what happened to the core of the team. Then you've got Seabirds and Singers in Hospice. These 2 games will be at the Prince of Wales. And then you've got Highlanders who are also trying to keep up the good form against Tambuti. And then there's a mini Manzini Derby where Wanderers take on Morning Pirates on Sunday from 1 p.m. Then Red Leopard against Babane Swallows. Another tight game for Babane Swallows. Remember, for Swallows now, in as much as they have lost the hope to win the league, they want to keep that position and maybe qualify for the CAF Confederation. Remember, second goes to CAF Confederation, number 1 goes to CAF Champions League. Now, don't be fooled by number 2 and number 3, how they're positioned. Remember, Swallows are second by virtue of head-to-head with Young Buffaloes. They have a better record against Young Buffaloes. But if you look at the opponents that they are left with, and I think just to let you know that this is maybe the fixture prior to the game on Wednesday, because if you look at the games played, it's 23 number 1, 23 number 3. So if we count the 3 points Young Buffaloes collected against Green Mamba, they are 54 points. So they have moved up. So the table is the one that was displayed prior to the game. So you can tell. So a quite exciting fixture. We've never, for the past maybe 4 to 5 years, had a tight schedule in tight competition in our local league like this, and I think it's at anyone's expense at this point in time.
Yeah, so from Babane Swallows to be on the second position, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, they have to hope. Yes, they have to hope that the Madlenya maybe hold on to Young Buffaloes, which is a tight one. And then they have to defeat Leopard, which is another tight one, because the history between the two sides in terms of their fixture has been quite tough. And Leopard coming to the game, they want also to be in a stepping stone where anyone can come and just beat them. So they want to keep that good record. So quite interesting for the 3 sides. But for Swallows, it's about CAF Confederation. For Buffaloes and the Green Mamba, they are going for the title, the league.
Yeah, them going for the title in the league. Just looking at Green Mamba versus Denver Sundowns on Sunday, as well as Young Buffaloes versus Madlenya on Sunday. Do you see them winning these games? Is it going to be easy for them?
Coach Enes Mavuso highlighted it. I'm sure you heard it on the news, saying that they have put themselves in a difficult position. They have reduced their chances of winning the league. It's not an easy game. Denver Sundowns is one of those teams on any day they can give you an upset. So I think coming to these 2 fixtures on paper, Madlenya is likely to be, not to undermine them, Buffaloes is likely to get 3 points, and Green Mamba is also likely to draw and maybe drop points. But anything is possible. They could, both of them, win their games, being Green Mamba and Young Buffaloes.
Let's talk about the Nedbank fixture. Very excited. I believe we did speak about, Dundalk Stars failing to beat Orlando Pirates, as well as, Kaizer Chiefs versus Royal AM.
What a game.
We have a derby coming up this weekend.
What a game.
Yeah.
What a game. I think more than anything, it stops being the knockout tournament. It also goes to the extent being a Soweto derby. And I think full attention for all those who love South African football. This is the moment. I want to believe it's a Friday. Some people have already started, putting their sick leave and saying, no, we're taking a drive to the, to Johannesburg to watch this game. I think coming to this game, on paper, you would say maybe who stands a chance, but it's a knockout tournament. I think what's at stake, it's a knockout tournament. Both teams have not got anything yet in terms of silverware this season. So they would want to proceed and get to the next level. And I think, remember the advantage of Nedbank. Whoever wins the Nedbank, you also have an advantage to play into CAF competitions. So it's a tight one. It's a derby. You can't say who stands a chance. The other one doesn't stand a chance. The best team will win on the day. And I can't wait. What a game we have on our screens tomorrow.
Yeah, Fabrice, if you were to predict who's going to win without fear or favor, without favor especially, just on paper, based on how they've been playing this season, whose odds are higher?
I don't know. There have been comments and information and trends about Chiefs, maybe lack of inconsistency. A bit of lack of inconsistency as well on side of Pirates. But coming to this game, I'll give it to the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
Not that I support any of the teams, but I'm looking at on paper. Like you asked, I'm giving it to the Buccaneers. But like I said, and another thing I've really noted for the past 3 or 4 years, the game hasn't been able to provide more than 3 to 4 goals. If it's not 1-0, it's a 2-1-1, it's a 2-1. That's where we stick to in terms of results. Remember, it's a knockout tournament, so we could go as far as penalty shootout. So I'm on paper, like you asked, I could give it to the Buccaneers. Pirates, yeah.
Yeah.
Stellenbosch and Skukuna United, another tight game. Skukuna also looking good these days. I could give it the Skukuna side to come out and maybe proceed to the next stage of the tournament.
I'm also giving it to Skukuna. Let's go to Napoli being champions of Serie A after 33 years, Fabrice. That's a big achievement.
And actually, I was actually looking at some of the comments say their capacity of over 55,000 stadium. Majority of the people in the stadium, over 29,000 of people in the stadium, were not born when last Napoli won the league.
Yeah.
The celebrations actually could have been, taken place.
How many people?
Over 29,000 under the age of 33 who were in the stadium yesterday. These are the dressing room celebration. Captain Di Lorenzo there not wearing anything. Look at Victor Osimhen. He's been quite interesting, the Nigerian striker, and I think he was very key in, and he scored. He was on the score sheet last night, and I think he was the top scorer. He's been he's been actually on the market of different English Premier League sides. So them winning the league after 33 years, and I think there were also information that the trophy will be, of course, dedicated to the late Victor Maradona, who not Victor Maradona, Diego Maradona. Diego Maradona, the late Argentinian, who played for Napoli. And I think the stadium now is under the name of Diego Maradona. Look at their position now. Napoli, their second, Lazio, and Juventus, after they were handed back, their 15 points, look where they're standing. But after 33 years, and their season was quite on point. If you look at how they also performed in the Champions League, they were defeated by AC Milan in the knockout stages. But this is the season, and I think majority of these players, I'm having difficult to see these 2 African players of Napoli. Victor Osimhen, like I highlighted him, the Nigerian, I don't see him playing for the team next season. He could be leaving for England. There's also Anguissi, the Cameroonian, also who plays in that position, the midfield. And I feel very much sorry for their former captain, who played for more than 8 seasons, and he had to leave for Chelsea. Kalidou Koulibaly, all of them, they know him now at Chelsea. He played for this team for 8 seasons. He was the captain. So imagine now how he feels. He could have just stayed for 1 more season and be the champion. All at Napoli.
Yeah.
That's the tournament.
A prolific win, Fabrice. Hopefully they're going to put back the log standings graphic. I'm looking at the 80 points versus 60 points. That's a huge discrepancy between number 1 and number 2. They really deserve to win.
The consistency, because where you've seen them dropping points is those, funny draws against the likes of
AC Milan.
Monza, AC Milan, Bologna. Those draws that you wouldn't expect, because over the weekend, they were supposed actually to have won it over the weekend. But, the celebration were cut short because of their draw against that number 10 Monza. But then you have to look at how the run of the season. You can't tell me that you've had more than 25 wins out of 33 games. That's an average of 85% victory in terms of how you've been accurate. And then you look at also how many games they have lost, 5, and they have drawn 3. So the performance tells you that they had a great season. And I think the management of the club and everyone, this could also put another attention in terms of their transfer market, how they want now to strengthen the team and maintain, which is something I want to highlight before we move. For the longest time, Juventus was the champions of Italy. Now, we have started seeing some progress in the Italian Serie A, because from Napoli, now there was AC Milan last season. So we don't have now a situation where one team dominates for the longest time. I think the only country now where we're left with a situation of that magnitude, it's only in France and in Germany, where PSG, I think for the past 7 to 5 seasons, they have been winning the league. And then you've got also a Bundesliga, you've got Bayern
Man
Munich.
City winning 5 out of 5? Prolific as well.
But you look at in terms of the competition they get, in as much as they get to win the trophy, but for the longest time of the season, up to March, most of the time, they're not on the position 1. You have to get a testimony on this season, where Arsenal for more than 6 seasons they were leading. Then you have to go the previous season, Liverpool giving them hard time, which is quite different. Unlike Napoli, I think have been number 1 for the longest time. Go to Germany, and in Paris Saint-Germain in France, same story.
Yeah, interesting. Before we move on, I think it's notable what Napoli has been able to do. Just a few facts. They are, the Serie A champions after 33 years. You've mentioned that. It's their 3rd Serie A title in their history. It's also the first one after the legendary Diego Maradona era, which is quite, prolific as well. So congratulations to them.
It's like 6 Italian players, including their captain, who won the Euros, Di Lorenzo, the left back, the one who was, I was saying that he was amazing. He's been a quite good player. This is Victor Osimhen. I think, for me, a club that he'll fit in England, the type of football he plays, he could do well for a team like Arsenal. I know Manchester United, Tottenham are after him. But if you could join a team like Arsenal, I think the style of football Arsenal plays and his style of football, very clinical in terms of area balls, a very offensive.
What does his contract look like? Do we see him staying there for a while?
He's got a buyout clause that allows him, at the age of 24, he's got a buyout clause that allows him that.
I don't see him going anywhere though after this.
I think he's going to leave.
You think
Any African player, wherever you play, it's your dream to play in the English football. And he's got friends there, Inacho and everyone from Nigeria. They advise him, come to England. That's where life is.
Fabrice, we started the week with Leicester City versus Everton in the English Premier League. We had Arsenal versus Chelsea the following day. Liverpool played Fulham, Man City versus West Ham. Then yesterday, we closed off the week with Brighton versus Manchester United. Some of these scores, I would say we predicted some of these wins, but some of them were quite heartbreaking for some fans.
You don't know how, sorry, you don't know how much that victory against Manchester United, Brighton, it could twist everything for Manchester United not playing Champions League, heavily not playing the Champions League, because you have to look at, he's been quite, fascinating, McAllister, this Argentinian, part of the World Cup winner, and I don't see him also staying at Brighton. This team has lost more than 5 to 6 key players, including Trossard, including, Cucurella, including Ben White. Some of the key players that have left the club, I don't see him staying, the likes of Barcelona, after his signature. Now, look at this victory of Liverpool against Fulham.
Sorry, before we move on to Liverpool, you saying Manchester United
are in a
might
very
have
fixed
just
position.
jeopardized their UEFA Champions League position. Was that because of Liverpool?
It's because of Liverpool
having a good run?
Yes, and they have got a game in hand. It's because of Newcastle current performance. It's because of also Tottenham Hotspurs, who also, in as much as they're inconsistent. We'll look at the table shortly, but in terms of inconsistency, you have to look at how also it could be very difficult for Manchester United.
Okay, let's go to Liverpool versus Fulham. We'll go back to that one when we look at the table.
At this point in the season, so you don't need a beautiful win. An ugly win is enough. You can get one note, even if it was a handball penalty.
It's a champion score.
Yeah, it's a champion score. So it meant a lot for Liverpool. And I think I'm trying to see what Liverpool supporters have been saying, that slowly and surely they are pushing that position. They could find themselves in a good position. But Newcastle United also doing well. Look at that game at the bottom of the table, Leicester City and Everton. I mean, these two teams, Everton, like I highlighted last time, it's one of the clubs that haven't been relegated for the longest time. So I think them being relegated, Goodson Park won't be the same with their captain, of course, goalkeeper, national team goalkeeper, Pickford. I don't see really them fighting and be back into this situation, because you've got the likes of West Ham above them. You've got the likes of also, Leeds United also fighting their life. Recently announced Sam Allardyce as their coach for the remainder of the season. So this victory has put both sides into the tight position. Leicester City, 7 years after winning the title, that really surprising season, 2016 season, when they won the title, now they're fighting for their lives. The only player who's still there when they won the title is Jamie Vardy, and I think he could really say goodbye to football after the team, maybe if the team gets relegated.
Yeah, without getting too much into the details of these games, I'm just looking at how much we still need to talk about, and we only have 6 minutes left on the clock. We've spoken about Arsenal versus, Chelsea. A great win by Arsenal.
Great win.
Great win. A quick one.
Great win. This is what you need. And I think for the longest time in terms of London derby, Chelsea used to dominate. But coming into the game, you look at the performance of Chelsea, and there are fears that looking at their performance, 39 points so far, they're also in a very, 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 worrying position. They could easily, find themselves fighting for relegation or playing for players. But what a win for Arsenal on home. So 3-1.
And how they started scoring a goal at 18 minutes, then 31 minutes, and another one at 34 minutes.
It could have been easily 5-0.
I thought it was going to be a massacre myself. Yeah. Manchester City, seeing Haaland breaking that new record. First, let's talk about the result before we even go to Haaland.
I wasn't really worried about this result, but I was aware that West Ham fighting for relegation, they could give them a hard time.
And it did look like that for the first few minutes of the game.
The first half was not, and then the goals had to come into the second half. This is where you see the fight of Manchester City, because the goal scorers are not the ones we expected. Not that Aki coming on the score sheet 50 minutes into the game, then Haaland doing what Haaland does, now has got 35 goals in one season, the most, the record. I mean, the people who had that record was Alan Shearer and Andy Cole at a limit of 34 goals.
Yeah.
So now he's extended to be the first ever to play 35 Premiership goals in one season. You have to talk about the likes of Drogba and Henry also, who dropped there under. But that's the record I was talking about, Alan Shearer and Andrew Cole. Look at even the time they broke those records. 1995 season, 1993 season.
He scored 35 goals in how many games?
So far they have played 34 games. 34 games, Manchester City, because they have a game in hand. So far they've played, 33 games. So this is an average of 1.6 goals per game. The average says he scored in each game and he assists in each game. If you say 1.6, so it's an average of 1 goal and 1 assist in every game.
So he's not just a scorer.
He's not just a scorer.
He's a good player.
He's a good player. And I think this is what we need. He's very, very an offensive striker. He doesn't have any specific technique in scoring.
Yeah.
Just give him the ball. He has to finish.
Quite typical,
yeah.
But what's important is getting the ball in the net.
You don't have to be fancy in front of the
goal.
But
also, Fabrice, I think it's quite important to highlight his confidence. This guy goes on to social media before every game to tell them that I'm quite excited to go and play and give you guys more goals.
And he's at the age of 21. Let's not forget about that.
He's young, but his confidence and the fact that he matches that confidence on the field, I think that's prolific.
In 3 seasons, this guy could easily overtake Alan Shearer, the all-time top scorer, 260 goals. If Harry Kane doesn't, because Harry Kane now has got 208, so you've got Alan Shearer, all-time top scorer, 260. If this guy continues like this, 40 goals, in more than 5 seasons, that's clearly 200 goals.
Yeah.
So he could easily take over that record.
Manchester City clearly dominating that game, 16 shots, 7 on target, and scoring all those goals. With West Ham only scoring, only having 2 shots on target in 6 shots. That's dominance. Let's talk about Manchester United very briefly versus Brighton. Watching that game, it was painful. I'm not even a Manchester United fan, but these boys were dominating that game. Brighton looked like the better team.
Here's the thing about teams like Brighton, your Brentford, this is not a one-man team. There's no one who comes in the field of play and says, I've got what it takes. Look at when they score, during the other time. There's no one-man show here. It's about team spirit. I've loved how Danny Welbeck, as one of their strikers, also have gained confidence since he got back at Brighton. Danny Welbeck, you've got players like Grosso, you've got players like Sasieto, you've got also this World Cup winner, McAllister. And I think these guys, when Graham Potter left for Chelsea as their former coach, I was thinking maybe their performance could drop. Okay. But how they've come back and restore their confidence.
Amazing. Yeah.
Quite amazing.
Let's talk about the fixtures, Fabrice. I think we can want to highlight all of them, but I think it's notable for us to highlight Arsenal fixture and the Manchester City fixture because they keep interchanging the #1 spot right now, and that's the topic of conversation.
Look how worrying it could be for maybe Chelsea. I think if they draw that game, Bournemouth could beat them on home soil, and they're above them. They could drop to 15th or 16th, Chelsea, for the very first time in more than 18 years. Then you've got Spurs, Crystal Palace. But look at that game, Liverpool-Brentford. It's another tight game. A draw would really do it for Brentford and Liverpool as well. But I think one key element I want to talk about the title race. Manchester City, thinking about Champions League against Madrid on Tuesday, midweek, going against Leeds United, that is full of confidence with their coach, Sam Allardyce. They could easily drop points. Remember, we still have the absence of Kevin De Bruyne. Who knows? Maybe he could be back over the weekend, but they could drop point. In as much as they drop point, it's a worrying also fixture for Arsenal. They go to Newcastle. St. James Park is not a place you can easily go and collect 3 points. There are three areas there are three stadiums in England. Once you go to Anfield Road from Liverpool, you go to Leeds United, Ellen Hallard Stadium, and this is Newcastle Stadium, St. James Park. It's a very, very, very tricky venue, and I think Arsenal have to really to show that they're still in the title race. Anything is possible. Arsenal can go there and get 3 points, and Newcastle with their performance this season, they can put it on hold and maybe make
sitting
Arsenal
at position 3. It's testament to how they've been playing this season.
But look at Manchester United against West Ham on home soil at the London Stadium. I don't see really Manchester United coming there easily. They could get 3 points, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
The log is easy, a point, behind #1, #2, with the game in hand for Manchester City. But look at the bottom. You've got Nottingham Forest, Everton, and Southampton. The only team I have a very, very, very soft spot for them not to get relegated. I mean Everton. Everton. These are some of the clubs here, so they make English Premiership interesting. Because if you are here in Swaziland, you go all over the country, you will get an Everton fan. You will get. It's Aston Villa. It's Aston Villa. It's Everton. It's Crystal Palace. These are the teams that Newcastle United. These are the teams that make English football look really interesting and quite offensive. So I would wish them really to get out of that position.
Looking forward to that Arsenal versus Newcastle game and that Leeds United versus Manchester City game. If you were to ask me if I praise Manchester City playing a number 17th team, a 17th seed, and then Arsenal playing a number 3 seed, just
number 2 and number 3. It's never been an easy, fixture.
Most important games for this season. Let's talk about La Liga. Just briefly on their, midweek results. We've seen great games as well. But even though, it's quite, I've spoken about this quite a lot. I've seen Barcelona just cruising there.
Yeah,
but
already being the champions.
Yeah, but the results are still, teams are still competing. Look at these results.
I'm looking at also in the mid of the results. Look at Atletico Madrid, that heavy victory. The likes of Depay, the Netherlands striker also being on the score sheet. But I think with of course, Barcelona already known how they are positioned in terms of winning the title. So you have to think also Madrid, they go to play Osasuna in the Copa del Rey this weekend. So if they win this trophy, they go to Champions League against Manchester City full of confidence. They know that in terms of the league, they are out. So they are targeting Copa del Rey and the UEFA Champions League.
Speaking of Copa del Rey, I think we've spoken, there's not much to talk about in La Liga anyway. Let's talk about Copa del Rey, the final between Real Madrid versus Osasuna. Very, very important fight.
It's very important. And I don't think coach, Carlo Ancelotti would rest players. These guys, they will go for the trophy. He wants, if this is his last season, as they have been reporting, he would want to win something now when he still sees it. So he will go full squad. Benzema should be there. The likes of Modric should be there. Goalkeeper Thibaut Courtois should be there. Some of the key players will be part of this fixture. So I fancy them to win to win this, Copa del Rey trophy.
Fabrice, always a pleasure having you on the show, giving us your insights. Thank you for joining us. We'll start with Magatenyala and then wrap up the show with Lungelele. But before that, I think, I'm just going to remind local fans that let's support local football. Denver Sundowns versus Green Mamba, Madlenya versus Young Buffaloes this Sunday, Real Leopards versus Swallows, Monzini Wanderers versus Moneni Pirates. Going to be interesting indeed. Yeah, thank you, Fabrice. Let's go for a net break. We'll wrap up the show with Lulu shortly. Right, it is almost a few seconds before 8 a.m. What are you doing this weekend?
This weekend I'm indoors this week, so I'll be indoors.
As usual.
As usual.
Yeah. I'll be watching local football, but I'll be watching it from the house as well as listening emisakatweni njengoba bayisakata nakhona. Sibonga kakhulu ukuthi nihleli nathi ehlelweni nibe nempela sonto lenhle. Sale kahle.